So even if you delete the account, you retain their name, you retain their email address, you retain their date of birth, you retain their sex, and you retain their genetic information, even if they choose to delete your account. So in other words, don't talk to your suit behind you, talk to me. He's not testifying, you are. You do not allow consumers actually to delete permanently their data. And when you said a minute ago to Senator Moody, at all times consumers have complete control of their data, that's just not true, is it? By the terms of your own agreement, that just is not true.
All of our customers who have requested.
No, you're not. You're not, because your policies say they're not. And you're not deleting it because if you were, your company wouldn't be worth $300 million. No, don't read from what your guy behind you is shoveling talking points to you now. I don't want your talking points. I've read your policies. I've seen what they are, and I tell you what, it's amazing to me you're not getting your socks sewed off by your customers. I hope they will. I hope they will rush to the courthouse, even as we are here today, to sue you into oblivion for lying to them and taking their most personal, identifiable information and selling it for a profit and lying to them and to the American public.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76. Where we cut through the noise and deliver the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into something that should make every freedom-loving American's blood boil. We're talking about the complete and utter betrayal of American citizens by 23andMe, a company that has been harvesting the most intimate details of our genetic makeup and is now selling us out to the highest bidder. Before we get started, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. This is the kind of content that big tech doesn't want you to see, and they're constantly trying to suppress channels like ours that tell the truth. Smash that like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and watch this video all the way to the end, because I'm going to reveal something that will shock you about what this really means for our national security and our children's future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Seal Savage, if I could just start with you. So how many customers do you have approximately?
Between 14 and 15 million customers.
Between 14 and 15 million. I think you told Senator Britt just a minute ago that a goodly number of those are minors. Is that correct?
What I said was I don't have the number of customers.
You have the genetic data of a good many minors. Is that correct?
We have genetic data for a particular number of minors, and I will be happy to provide.
People under the age of 18. Is that correct?
That is how I'm defining a minor.
So they give your customers, I just want to make sure I understand your business model. Your customers give you their genetic information for you to run various tests on. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And I mean, that's pretty sensitive stuff, isn't it? Somebody's genetic information. Is there anything more personal than that?
I would agree with you, Senator, that genetic data is sensitive information.
And so now you're just going to sell all of it? 15 million people, bunches of kids, maybe millions. It's just going to be sold in the open market?
As Senator, the good news, as I mentioned, is that the two bidders or buyers for the company, one is Regeneron, which is
that's the Big Pharma company?
It
doesn't make me feel any better.
It's a large pharmaceutical company.
All right, so you're gonna take 15 million Americans' genetic information and you're gonna sell it to somebody, and your message to us is today, trust us, it'll be fine. Maybe it's a Big Pharma company. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe they'll treat it right. I thought your privacy code, your privacy commitment said that consumers had a right not to have their information shared with anybody else without their consent. I mean, I've got your privacy statement right here. It says that without their consent, you can't share their information. You're about to sell it.
Senator, that consent is, essentially for,
not real?
Not share for research purposes, and we are not selling it for research purposes.
So when you tell the consumer, give us your personal information and we'll take money from you, and we won't give it to anybody without your consent, it's not real. It just means, maybe kind of depends on the day.
Senator, I will say that our customers' data is their own. They have the right at all times to access that information. They can edit it.
Well, sure they can, but you're about to sell it to who knows who. They can't control it. You said to Senator Moody that consumers have complete control of their data. Complete. How can they have complete control if you're about to sell it without their consent?
Senator, they can delete that data anytime up until the sale and after.
Okay. They can delete the data. Have you fixed the ability of customers to go on your website and delete it? Because right after you announced your sale, your deletion page went down. I hold in my hand here an article from the Wall Street Journal. 23andMe site goes down as customers struggle to delete their data. Can they even get onto your site to delete their data?
They can, Senator, and
You fix this?
that was an issue that, yes, we fixed immediately after.
It's up and running now? Customers can go on?
Customers can go on and they can delete their data.
What happens when
less
they
than
go onto
5
your
minutes.
site to delete their data?
When a customer logs into their account at 23andMe, they go to their settings page, and there's a section there where just click delete my data. It confirms that they want to delete their data, and it's deleted automatically.
Is that true? Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Okay.
When they go onto your page, they get an opportunity. It says permanently delete the data. So they click the button that says permanently delete the data, and then they get a notification that says your account is no longer accessible. How do they know if they can't access their account anymore? How do they know their data's been deleted?
Because we send them a notification that their information has been deleted.
You send it once, and how long does that take?
Our policies state that, we will delete their data within 30 days, and in most cases, it is automatic and happens much quickly.
And when you delete it, it's deleted. It's gone forever.
All the genetic data is deleted forever, and yes.
Really? Because that's not what your privacy statement says in the fine print. Let's read it. What your statement says is, we retain personal information for as long as necessary to provide the services and fill the transactions you have requested, to comply with our legal obligations, resolve disputes, enforce agreements, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes on, 23andMe and or our contracted genotyping laboratory will retain your genetic information even if you choose to delete your account.
Senator, 23andMe, it does not retain any genetic information regarding the consumer once they delete their account. We do.
It says right here that you will retain genetic information, including date of birth and sex, even if you choose to delete your account. This is your privacy policy. I'm just quoting from it.
Senator, to the best of my knowledge, we do not maintain any genetic information.
It says even if you choose to delete your account, we will retain your genetic information, date of birth and sex, even if you choose to delete your account.
There is some information that we do retain, but not related to the genetic information.
Right.
But that, such as name, email address,
Oh.
and other.
So even if you delete the account, you retain their name, you retain their email address, you retain their date of birth, you retain their sex, and you retain their genetic information, even if they choose to delete your account. So in other words, don't talk to your suit behind you, talk to me. He's not testifying, you are. You do not allow consumers actually to delete permanently their data. And when you said a minute ago to Senator Moody, at all times consumers have complete control of their data, that's just not true, is it? By the terms of your own agreement, that just is not true.
Senator, with all due respect, all of the genetic data is deleted. We are only
With all due respect, what you are telling me is in direct contravention to what your own policy states, even if you choose to delete your account. In fact, what you do is you allow your consumers to delete their account settings, but their data isn't deleted. You still have it. The laboratory still has it. You have their name. You have their date of birth. You have their sex. And now you're going to sell it. Here's my point. It's a pattern. Your consumers actually aren't in control of anything. You are. You control their data. You control their genetic information. Now you're about to sell it. You promise them, we won't ever sell it without your consent, but you're doing it. You promise them we'll allow you to delete it, but you don't. In fact, you've lied to them. Have you not?
Senator, we have not. I assure you that we are deleting all of our customers who have requested.
No, you're not. You're not, because your policies say they're not. And you're not deleting it because if you were, your company wouldn't be worth $300 million. No, don't read from what your guy behind you is shoveling talking points to you now. I don't want your talking points. I've read your policies. I've seen what they are. And I tell you what, it's amazing to me you're not getting your socks sewed off by your customers. I hope they will. I hope they will rush to the courthouse, even as we are here today, to sue you into oblivion for lying to them and taking their most personal, identifiable information and selling it for a profit and lying to them and to the American public. Quite frankly, Mr. Savage, what you're doing here has all kinds of implications, national security implications, all of it, but nothing is worse than taking the personal, identifiable information of American consumers and keeping it and lying to them about it while you make a huge profit off of it. It's unbelievable to me. It's absolutely unbelievable. This concludes our hearing. I want to thank each of the witnesses for taking the time to share your experience, your expertise, and your perspectives. Written questions can be submitted for the record until Wednesday, June 18th at 5 p.m. I'll ask the witnesses to answer and return questions to the committee within 2 weeks. The hearing's adjourned.
This isn't just about one company, Patriots. This is about the systematic destruction of American privacy and the weaponization of our most personal information against us. What we witnessed in the Senate hearing is nothing short of a complete betrayal of the American people. Here we have Mr. Savage from 23andMe sitting in front of our elected representatives, trying to justify why his company thinks it's perfectly acceptable to take the genetic information of 15 million Americans, including millions of children, and sell it off like cattle at auction. This is exactly the kind of corporate greed and moral bankruptcy that has infected our society, and it's happening right under our noses while the liberal establishment cheers it on. Let me paint you the picture of what's really happening here. 23andMe has been marketing itself as this friendly, helpful company that just wants to help you learn about your ancestry and health. They convince millions of Americans to voluntarily hand over their DNA, the most personal and identifying information that exists. Your genetic code is literally what makes you who you are. It's more personal than your social security number, more intimate than your medical records, and more valuable than any financial information you possess. These people trusted 23andMe with this information because they were told it would be protected, that would remain private, that they had control over their own data. But now we find out that was all a lie. A complete fabrication designed to lure unsuspecting Americans into giving up their most precious asset so that this company could turn around and sell it for profit. This is the kind of predatory capitalism that gives real free enterprise a bad name. And it's exactly what happens when we don't have strong leadership fighting for the American people. The most disturbing part of this entire hearing was watching Mr. Savage squirm and dodge questions like a typical corporate weasel. When confronted with the fact that his company's own privacy policy directly contradicts everything he was saying under oath, he couldn't provide straight answers. He kept deflecting, claiming that customers have complete control over their data, while simultaneously admitting that they're about to sell that same data to pharmaceutical companies without explicit consent. This is gaslighting at its finest. Patriots. They're telling you that you have control, while they're literally taking control away from you. They're saying you can delete your data, while their own policies state that they retain your genetic information, your name, your email, your date of birth, and your biological sex even after you delete your account. It's Orwellian doublespeak, and it's happening in real time right in front of Congress. But here's what really gets my blood boiling about this whole situation. We're not just talking about adults who made an informed decision to participate in this genetic testing. We're talking about millions of children whose parents submitted their DNA to this company, thinking they were doing something harmless or even beneficial. These kids had no say in the matter, and now their most personal biological information is being sold off to the highest bidder before they're even old enough to understand what that means. Think about the implications of this for just a moment. Your child's genetic information, which could reveal predispositions to certain diseases, mental health conditions, or other personal characteristics, is now going to be owned by a pharmaceutical company. What happens when that child grows up and wants to get life insurance? Health insurance? What happens when they apply for certain jobs or want to serve in the military? Their genetic information is out there, owned by corporations who have no loyalty to them or to America. This is exactly the kind of thing that happens when we allow the surveillance state to grow unchecked and when we let corporations operate without proper oversight. The same people who scream about privacy when it comes to government surveillance are perfectly fine with private companies harvesting our most intimate data and selling it for profit. It's hypocritical, it's dangerous, and it's un-American. The national security implications of this are staggering, and I don't think most Americans understand just how serious this is. When foreign entities or hostile nations gain access to the genetic profiles of millions of Americans, they can use that information in ways we can't even imagine. They can develop targeted biological weapons. They can identify individuals for espionage or blackmail, and they can map out the genetic vulnerabilities of our entire population. We've already seen how China has been systematically collecting genetic information from Americans through various means. Now we have American companies doing their work for them by harvesting this data and selling it to whoever writes the biggest check. This isn't just corporate malfeasance, patriots. This is a threat to our national security, and our government needs to treat it as such. What makes this even worse is the complete failure of our regulatory system to protect American citizens. Where's the FDA? Where's the FTC? Where were all these government agencies that are supposed to be protecting consumers from exactly this kind of predatory behavior? They were nowhere to be found, probably too busy going after conservative voices on social media to pay attention to actual threats to American privacy and security. This is what happens when we have a government that's more interested in political theater than actually governing. While they're busy investigating parents at school board meetings and targeting traditional Americans who dare to speak out against woke ideology, real criminals are operating in plain sight, harvesting our genetic information and selling it to the highest bidder. The senator who is questioning Mr. Savage deserves credit for holding this man's feet to the fire and exposing the lies and deception that this company has been perpetrating against the American people. But one senator asking tough questions isn't enough. We need a complete investigation into this industry, and we need legislation that puts the rights of American citizens above the profits of greedy corporations. This is exactly why we need strong conservative leadership that will stand up to these corporate interests and fight for the American people. We need leaders who understand that our genetic information is not a commodity to be bought and sold, but a fundamental part of our identity that deserves protection. We need leaders who will put America first and American citizens first, not corporate profits. The fact that 23andMe's website went down right after they announced this sale, preventing customers from deleting their data, tells you everything you need to know about this company's true intentions. They knew that Americans would be outraged when they found out about this betrayal, so they made it impossible for people to opt out. That's not just unethical, that's potentially criminal, and there should be consequences. Every American who trusted this company with their genetic information should be furious right now. They were lied to, they were deceived, and they were betrayed by a company that they trusted with their most personal information. This is exactly the kind of corporate behavior that destroys trust in our institutions and makes Americans cynical about the system. But this goes beyond just one company, Patriots. This is part of a broader pattern of corporations and government agencies treating American citizens like subjects rather than free people with rights. They collect our data without our knowledge, they sell it without our consent, and they lie to us about what they're doing with it. This is not the America that our founders envisioned, and it's not the America that we should accept. We need to send a clear message to these corporations that the American people will not be treated like cattle to be bought and sold. We need to demand accountability, we need to demand transparency, and we need to demand that our elected representatives take action to protect our privacy and our rights. This is also a perfect example of why we need to be extremely cautious about what information we share with private companies, especially when it comes to our most personal data. The promises they make today about privacy and security can be broken tomorrow when it becomes profitable to do so. We need to be smarter consumers and more careful about who we trust with our information. The fact that this company is being sold to a pharmaceutical company should concern every American. Big Pharma already has too much power and influence over our healthcare system, and now they're going to have access to the genetic information of millions of Americans. What are they going to do with that information? How are they going to use it? And most importantly, how is it going to be used against us? We've already seen how pharmaceutical companies have put profits over people time and time again. They've pushed dangerous drugs, they've hidden side effects, and they've prioritized their bottom line over public health. Now we're going to give them access to our genetic codes? This is insanity, and it's exactly the kind of thing that happens when we don't have leaders who are willing to stand up to corporate interests. This entire situation is a wake-up call for every American who cares about privacy, freedom, and the rights of individuals. We cannot allow corporations to treat us like products to be bought and sold. We cannot allow them to harvest our most personal information and then lie to us about what they're doing with it. And we cannot allow them to put corporate profits above the rights and interests of the American people. The time for action is now. Patriots. We need to demand that Congress investigate this industry thoroughly. We need to demand that the Justice Department pursue criminal charges against companies that have defrauded American consumers. And we need to demand that our elected representatives pass legislation that protects our genetic privacy and gives us real control over our most personal information. This is not a partisan issue, patriots. This is about the fundamental rights of American citizens and the protection of our most personal information. Every American, regardless of their political affiliation, should be outraged by what we've learned about 23andMe and the entire genetic testing industry. We also need to think about the broader implications of this for our society. When corporations can harvest our most personal information and sell it without our consent, what does that say about our rights as individuals? When companies can lie to us about their privacy policies and face no consequences, what does that say about the rule of law in our country? This is exactly the kind of issue that separates real conservatives from the establishment politicians who talk a good game, but never actually fight for the American people. Real conservatives understand that protecting individual rights and privacy is fundamental to preserving our freedom and our way of life. The American people deserve better than this. We deserve companies that respect our privacy, that honor their commitments, and that put our interests above their profits. We deserve a government that protects us from predatory corporations rather than enabling them. And we deserve leaders who will fight for our rights, even when it's not politically convenient. As we wrap up today's discussion, I want you to think about what this means for your family and your future. If you've used 23andMe or any similar service, your genetic information is out there, and there's probably nothing you can do to get it back. But you can make sure that your voice is heard and that your representatives know that you expect them to fight for your rights. Make sure you're subscribed to Signal 76 because we're going to continue following this story and holding these corporations accountable. Share this video with everyone you know because the mainstream media isn't going to give you the real story about what's happening here. And most importantly, stay engaged and stay informed because the fight for our rights and our freedom never ends. The battle for the soul of America is being fought on many fronts, patriots, and this is just one of them. But it's an important one because it goes to the heart of who we are as a people and what we're willing to accept from those who claim to serve us. We cannot allow corporate greed and government negligence to destroy the principles that make America great. Until next time, this is Signal 76 reminding you to stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop fighting for the America we love. God bless you all, and God bless America.